Hello everyone. Today we are heading to Uganda. Thank you to all the subscribers. I cannot thank you enough. Without you, I would not be in this space. Please, if you watching and have not subscribed, please may I ask you to do so. Thank you. Let go. Uganda has sentenced Lord's Resistance Army Commander Thomas Kwoyelo to 40 years for war crimes. A court in Uganda has sentenced Lord's Resistance Army Thomas Kwoyelo to 40 years in prison after a landmark war crimes trial over his role in the group's two-decade reign of violence. The sentence was announced on Friday by Michael Elubu, the lead judge in the case, at a court in the northern city Gulu. Justice Duncan Gasagwa, one of 4 judges on the case, said the convict played a prominent role in the planning, strategy, and actual execution of the offenses of extreme gravity. He added that the victims have been left with lasting physical and mental pain and suffering. Kwoyelo was found guilty in August of 44 offenses, including murder and rape, and not guilty of 3 counts of murder. 31 alternate offenses were dismissed. The trial marked the first time a member of the LRA had been on trial by Uganda's judiciary. It was also the first atrocity case to be tried under a special division of a high court that focuses on international crimes. Founded in the late 1980s with the aim of overthrowing the government of Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, the LRA brutalized Ugandans under the leadership of Joseph Kony for nearly 20 years as it battled the military from bases in the northern Uganda. The fighters were notorious for horrific acts of cruelty, including hacking off victims' limbs and lips and using crude instruments to bludgeon people to death. Kwoyelo, believed to be in his 50s, was a low-level commander of the LRA, tasked with caring for the group's injured members, according to his testimony. He says he was forced to join the LRA in 1987. After the group's members abducted him on his way to school at the age of 12, at the peak of the rebel conflict. He went on to become a senior commander, using the alias Latoni, and overseeing the treatment of wounded fighters. In 2009, Kwoyelo was captured in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo during a raid by regional forces. The LRA rebels had been forced out of northern Uganda into DCR and other neighboring countries a few years earlier because of the Ugandan military's offensives on the group. He was brought back to Uganda, having suffered a bullet wound to his stomach. He spent the next 14 years in prison as the prosecution put the case against him together. Due to his pre-trial detention by the Ugandan authorities, some had advocated for Kwoyelo's release. Human rights groups, such as Avocats Sans Frontières, pointed out that holding Kwoyelo in detention for more than a decade muddled the case for the prosecution. But others, including victims, said Kwoyelo was involved in killings and torture, and should therefore face justice. Apparently thousands of children were abducted by the group and used as sex slaves or child soldiers. With such a litany criminality, there is no escaping jail. He is going to jail for a very long time. In Africa, it is very often that the prisoner serves the entire period stipulated by the judge.
Kwoyelo sat pensively in court as his verdict was read out. He was found guilty of 44 counts of murder, kidnap, cruelty, and other crimes against humanity. A 4-judge bench delivered the verdict.
He is found guilty of 44 of the counts.
Kwoyelo was a teenager when he was abducted on his way to school in Gulu. He spent 2 decades as a fighter in the Lord's Resistance Army, an armed group that was fighting the government for years. He was responsible for treating wounded soldiers. He was arrested in the Democratic Republic of Congo and has been in jail in Uganda for 15 years. Victims who were at the courthouse say they are satisfied with the verdict.
I lost my father and 4 of my uncles, my father's brothers, and 2 of my nieces were also lost. The person who did it should get a fair judgment, which fair judgment we have already had today. And we are so thankful for it, for the people who conducted it. Yes.
Kwoyelo and other fighters he commanded attacked camps for displaced people and killed several. The murder cases against him are partly based on that incident.
The people will receive the news. They'll partly be happy that at least it has now come to an end, but they still have that expectation that needs to be addressed. Expectation of compensations of the lost. green card.
The LRA was led by Joseph Kony, whose fighters killed thousands, kidnapped children, cut off limbs from victims, and raped people in northern Uganda. More than 2 million people were displaced there between 1987 and 2006. It's not clear if Kony is still alive or not. But back at the courthouse, those who lived through so much suffering say they have got the justice they deserve.
13 years fighting for them until he managed to escape. Here's his story.
I'm Kimara. I'm a beach. We are beach. And Kimara Kedeki are white. Maka. Anabere Corbion. Che rien meda bien donne mere art. Karma donne art. Chapeau mene dano titu gola. Moñum titu gola. Na bergo ite kirimo mama karo berme yete wi. Che rien chero ko ya rien donne tiedo. Karma don kidero kidu gola dai kuma ko nyak mama no tika regu. Che kamera no kete bor nyak mama ma tera dawe ko ni ginne ko nyak mama no rando ngo. Karo ki tielo kama karo ki tielo ki chawo wat ngo kera choke ni do ngo ni bergia ngo ki chela kama ki chelo temana kan tuju wi adika kama tuju wi adika be ko no fut piari to twale bu kwanyo damo man na bu char bu gwaga kama magiluone sig bay luome ni bay kama ke gwa ngo rap chi ada ko yo tor chiet ma pet chiet mi Uganda mi chilu kon mutaka ko timungo ma winyi kin lok ma ke wai pian panel ke wa ber choke ata winyi ki waje kamero chi ada ko yero no mi Uganda mi Uganda Umorong kore kum Kwoyelo marwate ki chilu en mutaka nene no dong. Lok chao kon Kwoyelo ma narmoni kon Kwoyelo timungo. Kira che be Kwoyelo en ma an. Kira che Kwoyelo ma an e Kwoyelo be ki ma en. Wa an ma tin lo be ra ma ngati mo nyu be ra ma ni ma duong be na ta cha lu en ngo Kwoyelo ni. Chi ya da ka wati winyo kore kum Kwoyelo. Wa ne am cha lu buguru aria malai.